give us some advice about what New Zealand Asian leaders can do to help.
It's funny, I'm a Chinaman, as you can see, but I've spent over 20 years in the New Zealand dairy industry, which is longer than these two. And I think that's the conundrum we have as Asians, and is that there is a perception of truth and there's a perception of trust. And it's very hard for us in New Zealand to understand that. I'm currently director of a venison byproducts company called Lowe Products in Tauranga. And we make and market traditional Chinese aphrodisiacs. And from a perception of truth and trust, do they work? I couldn't tell you. However, we sell and manufacture deer tails, tendons, pizzles and testicles. And you think, bloody hard things to sell. But when you go to China, they understand that. They believe in the attributes of that product. We don't need standards. In fact, standards only basically undermine some of those beliefs. They won't trust it because you are trying to tell them another layer over and above the belief they already have. And that belief, probably whether you know it or not, has changed. The belief I have as a Chinese person is the beliefs that my grandfather gave me in 1920. And China's moved on since 1920. The trouble is those values in 1920 will probably be the same values in 20 years' time. But they may not be the values today. So that's perceptions of truth and trust. When you look at regulations that I see coming out of China and other countries, all these are as processes. And processes per se do not qualify truth, do not qualify trust for your consumers. What they do is they qualify a regulator to allow you access to that market. And what we're seeing in some of our products, and not venison byproducts is one company, but there's other companies as well, is that regulation actually cuts across what the consumer needs. So they're looking for other channels to bypass the regulator. So we have a very large market on online businesses based out of Taiwan into China. And it's not that we want to do it that way, it's that our customers can't access it any other way. And so I think this what is going to happen more and more in the future is some of these different types of distribution channels that are non-linear, non-conventional will appear. And that's then you start saying, well, where does brand New Zealand fit into all this? And I think brand New Zealand is confused in terms of, is it a source of material? Is it a source of brand that qualifies the material to be accessed to the market? Or does it qualify a perception that as a consumer you can trust what you get is actually what it says? I don't know. What I'm seeing is that there's a shift in the marketplace. The consumers, especially I was in the Philippines last month, the consumers today are very different from the consumers 20 years ago. And same would be in China, same would be in India. And trying to extrapolate, where they were 20 years ago to where they are now to where they will be in 20 years' time, it's not going to be linear. And it may be that New Zealand needs to sort of understand that it's not going to be linear and take some risks. When you talk about quality, my first job out of university, I worked in a dairy factory in the Waikato. A small dairy factory, and we made, of all things, spray-dried infant formula. We were one of the first factories in New Zealand making spray-dried infant formula, back in the early 80s. I was a factory operator. I ran an evaporator that made the baby foods. And we had a tank that we used to standardise and melt all the fat and to put into our baby foods. I remember one night about 5 in the morning, a couple of Maori guys who were working in the factory turned up with a pig they'd just shot. And they brought it in the factory and says, "Rodney, you don't mind we use the tank there to just scald the pigs, do you?" And so the perception that New Zealand's food safety has been fantastic, always, is not right. But we knew risk, and we knew that when you scald all the fur off the pig, you don't use that for oil. So yes, I think there is systems you need in place, there is processes you need in place, but if you can get inside and truly understand the motivations and some of those cultural drivers within the Asian markets, I think it's far more valuable. Simple things. Last year I was in Vancouver with our CEO, and we visited a distributor. Now, it's father and son. The son ran the business. The father basically looked after the business. I took up a packet of tea and sat down with the father. It was tea that's actually grown in Hamilton. Not great tea, but it's a tea that is grown in New Zealand. And you don't get tea grown in New Zealand in many places outside of New Zealand. So when you take it up to Vancouver, took this old gentleman, you try the tea, and he was mildly impressed in terms of like brought it all that way. And as we sat there drinking, we saw the CEO and his son, his Chinese guy, talking away, talking about distribution, product ranges, margins and the rest. And this old guy looked over to me and said, "Rodney, when do we tell the young fellas how should we run this business?" And that's when you start having the belief of, layers of understanding, layers of trust, layers of truth. And regulation will be part of it, but those relationships are far more worthwhile. So, mate, I'll leave it at that, but I think, you've got a good audience here.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much.